Good morning, everybody. This is Mike from The Last Corvette. Today is Thursday, March 9th. I've been away from social media for several weeks. I did post a small little video last night about my E-Z-GO golf cart. I'll probably make part 2 on the same 3 battery setup, and also when I upgrade to either 5 batteries total or 6. We'll see. And then we'll basically have a part 2 as far as what range you can expect if you do this cheaper conversion, and then probably part 3 when I connect the other batteries. And then we'll just basically figure out if the cost of buying these deep cycle batteries and the range, is it worth doing, or is it better to just bite the bullet and buy dedicated golf cart batteries, regardless if you have a 36 or a 48 volt golf cart. Anyway, that's to come. Like I said, the first test was kind of just a base test. Didn't use the golf cart much, for one, and the temperatures were very, very cold, so that affects the batteries, the charge, and everything else like that. All right, so this video is about my C6 Corvette. I've been kind of MIA with the whole C6 build. I'll explain. I've been busy with everything in life. Work, family. Obviously, family is first, work is second. My car is somewhere on the list, down on the list there. But when I went to Mexico, I made a decision. We were there for a week. I made a decision to just hold off till April for a couple of reasons. First, I'm kind of late in the game. Number 2, the days are going to be longer. Obviously, it's going to be just easier to work in daylight versus having shorter days. And on top of it, the temperatures are going to be a little bit better, a little bit warmer, which will make for better content for you guys. I will be utilizing the tripod with a GoPro versus using my phone, because I've had so many comments, you know, why don't you show this? Why don't you show that? Well, you need both hands, and that's why I always cut in and out, like step 1, then step 2, explain what I did at step 1. So I've always tried to focus in on meat and potatoes, part numbers, all of the intricate parts of whatever I'm working on, but it will change where I give you guys like an A to Z type video. So I'm gonna wait. I set a deadline June. If I can get this vehicle up on a dyno come June, I'm okay with that. And the reason I say June, if I start working on it in April, I'll probably be done by mid-April, probably early May. But everybody works here in Michigan or, you know, northern states on their vehicles over the winter in the off season, and then the dynos and the shops get backed up. So we'll see. I'll make a whole slew of videos on that, and we'll go from there. But last year, I upgraded my fuel system, not knowing that I actually had a fuel leak, and I discovered the fuel leak. If you watch my previous videos, the last couple of times I drove the vehicle like late fall when it was 32 outside, literally 0. And it wasn't ideal. I didn't really get good numbers on the dragging anyway, but then I discovered my O2 sensor was bad. I was having a bad misfire. And then I also discovered a raw fuel smell. Like raw fuel was dumped all over the floor the first time I took it out. The first one, of course, even though I knew I was going to work on the fuel system, I thought maybe it was my snow blower that I got ready for the winter. I spilled some gas because I had some gas cans in the garage. But then I took it out again a couple of days later to do a final test, and when I came back, I smelled fuel. And then the next morning when I was getting ready to go to work, the whole garage just reeked of gas, so I had to leave the garage door open. And when I came back, I physically saw a fuel run or a fuel leak down the side of my driver's side tank. And then when I took everything apart, as I showed you guys in the video, I had the #1 culprit when it comes to C6 generation Corvettes, which is a high pressure elbow on top of the fuel pump module. It had several cracks on top of the harness that goes into the fuel pump module, was completely just blown out, and it was leaking fuel right through that as well. And just to be clear, before we jump into the latest comment that was made on my C6 fuel system upgrade, C6 Corvettes, if you have a fuel leak, if it's not related to the crossover pipe, 80% of the time it's always the driver's side module or the fuel pump that high pressure elbow cracks, especially 05 through 2010. You have to remember that that era, those years weren't the greatest for the automotive. Quality was crap, supplier quality was crap, and everybody was kind of just tanked and bottomed out. So from 2010 through 2013, when the C6 generation got replaced with C7, they did upgrade the fuel pump modules. They also had a recall, basically on these fuel pumps and all that stuff. It wasn't more of a recall, it was basically a forced government fix for them to do. And so we'll see how 2010 through 2013 fuel pumps hold up. The one that I got obviously is the latest revision Z06 fuel pump, but that one should last for a while. So anyway, this individual reached out to me, left a comment on one of the videos. If you're watching, kind of hear me out. I'll try to help you as much as I can. Number one, I've never worked on the C5 Corvette fuel tanks or the crossover tube, crossover pipe. And let me explain. When the C5 first came out, that was Rev 1 of the fuel system, fuel tanks, the fuel delivery system in that vehicle. On later models, 2001 through 2004, they upgraded the crossover tube to the flex crossover pipe you see on C6 Corvettes. The fuel system was very, very, very similar. Obviously some differences, different part numbers, fuel pumps and all that stuff, but it was very, very similar to what we see in the C6s. And the reason was, on early year C5 Corvettes, instead of having a flex pipe that locked into the tanks, they had a basically reinforced hose with clamps as a transfer tube, and it would swell up, develop leaks either at the driver's side tank, passenger side tank, and C5s also had evap issues as well. Either crack lines, stock purge valve that would basically just dump raw fumes into the atmosphere or into the air. Also on small vehicles like that, right, a small little cabin, if you do have a raw fuel leak or an evap problem, the tanks are right behind you, so you're definitely going to smell the fuel inside your vehicle. That's a given. Number one thing that I can tell you, like I said, I've never worked on a C5. I did my C6. This individual has a 2004 C5 Corvette, which means it's very similar to the C6 setup. Pretty identical, I'll say. But at the end of the day, you need to lift the vehicle, you need to inspect the crossover pipe, you need to inspect the tanks, look for physical leaks. You can basically remove the rear tires, inner wheel liners, expose, well, a quarter or half of the tank and see to see if there's actual physical leaks, because if there are, they'll be there. You'll have some wet spot. If it dried out or evaporated, you'll see dirt buildup where the streaks are. So that's number one thing you got to do. Also check your fuel pressure to make sure the fuel pump is still good. On C6s, 80% of the time, like I said, it was always going back to the fuel pump module. And on C6s, it didn't matter if you had that condition, if your vehicle was full, half full, quarter full, because once you would pressurize your fuel system, that high pressure elbow would spew fuel all over the top of the tank, and then it would pool on top of the tank. And in summer and hot heat, it would evaporate some, but regardless, it would then leak, kind of spew over and leak down the side of the tank. Now on C6s, that's a given. I've seen some articles about damaged tanks if they weren't properly installed or shimmed. There were some crossover issues, some evap issues as well, but like I said, that's 80% was always the fuel pump module. When it comes to C5s, I really never heard of fuel pumps leaking. I mean, I've heard of fuel pumps going bad. Mostly it's the crossovers, damaged tanks, or the evap. But regardless, anything is possible. You have to remember that, as I said, 05 through 2010, 04, 05 through 2010 wasn't the greatest year for automotive anyway, right? We were kind of going into the dumpster fire, bankruptcies. Quality was shit on the OEM side. Quality was really bad on the supplier side as well. And, it is what it is. But To further help you, you need to kind of investigate further. Like I said, grab a flashlight, see where the leak is coming from, and you know, it's easy to do. And then from there, you have to kind of set up a game plan. But you know, on C6s, I can tell you for sure that a 4-speed automatic, 6-speed automatic, or 6-speed manual all can be serviced without removing the whole cradle, rear cradle. You just have to literally remove the axle back exhaust. On a C5, I'm not really sure. Never worked on it, even though the fuel system is very similar. So anyway, enjoy your Thursday. Comment below, and I'll try to help as much as I can. My next couple of videos will probably be about the E-Z-GO golf cart, and then come April, we'll start on the C6 project.